Today's U.S. President and U.S. Congress, as with those who served before them, are on record as having imposed inhumane sanctions, economic sanctions on nations. And these sanctions, right now, have ruined and destroyed millions of lives. Now let us consider the current threat of war being provoked by the United States, which is right now unfolding. It states regarding this. Iranian state TV has announced at least 5 Iranian-flagged tankers are transporting fuel to Venezuela through the Atlantic Ocean and plan to break the American blockade on the Latin American country. Iran has warned that any U.S. attempt at intercepting its fuel tankers would have serious repercussions for the Trump administration ahead of the November elections. Both countries have been targeted under U.S. sanctions and various levels of covert military action of late. President Trump has taken a personal interest in renewed pressure on Maduro within the past months, reportedly pushing his generals to go forward with a naval blockade of the socialist nation. Reuters has also reported that U.S. defense officials are planning a potential response. The contentious issue of closer ties between Tehran and Caracas became center stage after, in April, a series of sanctioned Iranian Mahan air flights landed in Venezuela to transport badly needed equipment to fix fuel refining plants for domestic gas consumption amid a severe national shortage. Well, of late, I heard that Venezuela may be sending some military artillery to make sure that those vessels coming from Iran come through safely. And as of yesterday, I also learned that according to the Pentagon, the spokesperson said they were not aware that any response to block those tankers were being planned, but then they had a caveat with that even if that was the case, they wouldn't have been informed anyway. Well, we'll just see what happens. Well, no doubt there are many ignorant people, especially Caucasian men, who agree that the U.S. must run roughshod over everything and everybody because they believe that Caucasian men are meant to rule the world regardless of the manner in which they rule. Well, for those who think this way, this ignorant way, such as so-called white supremacists, and I say so-called because that is just a notion that can never exist. You can be made from the black people and then be supreme over them. We allowed you to do what you're doing, and now that allowance is being pulled back and has been pulled back. So it's just a desperate attempt for you to jab a jaw. But just know that the U.S. military has never been about protecting the interests of its U.S. citizens, but the interests of those, Mr. White Man, who sunk your businesses, repeatedly stole your retirement funds, and slammed U.S. citizens into an uncertain future. Now the only thing people have to look forward to is a few inadequate stimulus checks, a day at the beach, since the beaches are now open, and a COVID-19 vaccine. Well, what will happen when the heavily boasted U.S. military prowess is found to be substandard? How will U.S. citizens feel when they learn that the U.S. military is being effectively repelled and routed by those who were once terrified but are no longer frightened because the unjust decimation of their people at the hands of the U.S. government is at stake? So sometimes you wilt when you got space to wilt, but when you backed up into a corner and you have nowhere to go, then you fight with all desperation. And as we have learned in previous messages, God is never with the aggressor. So all those who are wilting because of fear, all they need to do is take a stand. And you have the power of God in your corner. But he's not going to back cowards.